Good evening, everyone. I am Chris, joined once again with Dale, and we're back talking about Revenge of the Sith. A lot quicker than I thought we would be. We were in this same. Actually, did we? Yeah, we recorded it in the same room as well, didn't we? I think we did our review for this film last year, and I think I put in the video description celebrating the 19th anniversary because they were putting all the Star Wars movies back on at the cinema. That was the last time that me and you went to the cinema, was to watch these Star Wars films. It was Return of the Jedi. And we're back, not even a year later, talking about one of the same movies that we did, with a bit of a twist this time. So we didn't really want to just talk about the film again in this video. If you want to hear our opinions, I don't think our opinions have changed in a year since we talked about it.
It's still better than Attack of the Clones. Everything is still better than Attack of the Clones. Herpes is better than Attack of the Clones. But it still holds up really, really well. My opinion has not changed.
Same. I mean, I was appreciating some things more, just seeing it on the big screen again, some of like the CGI and everything like that. I mean, I've always thought the effects look great. Well, some of them look a bit ropey, but especially the stuff on Mustafar, I'm always blown away by that whenever I see it on the big screen. And I don't know, like we kind of had this when we went to see it last year, but I think with it being officially the 20th anniversary this year, which we're still like a month away from. I don't know why they released it in April, because I think the actual 20th anniversary,
May 13th or something.
Yeah, it's like midway through, like second week of May or something. I was sort of like watching the ending on Mustafar and casting my mind back to seeing it for the first time 20 years ago. And I wasn't say I was getting misty, but I remember exactly where I was sitting in the cinema that I went to see it at 20 years ago. Who I went to see it with.
I was at the front. I was like,
"Oh, were you front row?"
I don't know if it was exactly front row, but I remember being close, being like this. Like it was one of those.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? That's why I remember the angle. I remember the thing I remember was, I mean, I was with my dad, but the thing I remember the most that stands out is where Anakin's like, he's got it's that first big shot where he's got like the hood over his head and he's walking a lot. And like, I just remember that and me being like this, just looking up at him.
Because you're a couple of years younger than me, but do you remember the film when it was coming out? This big event, like this is the last Star Wars movie ever. This is tying it all together.
I do, yeah. It was. I think I do, but I think it would hit differently, I guess. Because the thing is, it wasn't some big thing for me, because obviously I wasn't born in like the early 70s or something. I didn't grow up with that, so obviously I always knew what it was. But to have an end to something that I didn't know the beginning of, it didn't stand out to me. Like as much as I remember that event, it wasn't some big thing of like, oh, this is the last Star Wars movie. Because to me, it was just another Star Wars movie, But yes, it did tie all it up. But yeah, I guess it hits different, because the difference is when it's like stuff like Harry Potter, you see it from the beginning till the end. This had always been in the background, so the fact that there was like near the end, and also I remember my mate was just like, oh, they're going to make loads more, and then it ended, and then they didn't for a bit, obviously. And I remember I was like, hey, you were wrong. He wasn't wrong. He was not fucking wrong. They kept going.
But similar with Harry Potter, what you mentioned there, sort of aging up with those characters. In a way, I feel like I kind of did that with Anakin as well. And that was probably intentional by George Lucas, in that the first movie, it's to capture new fans. So I was 6 years old when I went to see it. Anakin's meant to be 9. So similar I had a very similar haircut as well, like just the bowl cut that Anakin has.
The best thing that did it though was Toy Story for me.
Oh god, yeah.
Also because it was the same time. Like the first movie was 96, I think. But like what I mean, it was like, so I was 2. But you know what I mean. But it was that whole like child watching the first one. Then child is a little bit older, and then literally it came out when I was going to
Toy Story 3 couldn't have come out.
He was leaving for college, and I left school and going to college that year. It was like a proper it was I think that was the best one for all nostalgia and everything tying up in your life. But it was I remember it being a big event, but it was, I don't think it was as big of an event as episode 1 though, was it?
Well, I'm not sure, because I was just kind of, episode 1 was the first Star Wars film I ever saw, so I just remember just going to the cinema and just going into this world, and just being completely swept up into it. But by the time episode 3 was coming out, I was doing embarrassing shit. Like I was writing fan fiction of how I thought my episode 3 was going to go, because you had an end point. You had like, right, okay, so Luke and Leia need to be born. Anakin needs to burn in a volcano. I always wonder where that information came from, because that seemed to be always common knowledge, that he got burnt somehow in like a fight with Obi-Wan, I think it was. It could be in like the novelization of the trading card game. I think someone may have mentioned that on one of our previous streams.
It's weird. I do think this where these kind of things come from, because they're not always official. No, they're official sources, but they're not always from, like, for instance, like there's some movies or books or anything like that. If you look at like the wiki online, it'll tell you the character's date of birth and all this kind of stuff. You never find out anywhere.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because sometimes I think we've even come up with some things we said before. So, oh yeah, I heard that. Can't find it anywhere where we heard it. We just know it was the thing.
Well, probably all the books that we're having, like the companion guides and everything.
Yeah.
When you're a kid and you love it, you just absorb that knowledge, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
Like back in the day, I could recite to you the first 151 Pokemon in order. Like it just, your mind's like a sponge. But so there was all this list of things that needed to happen. It's like, right, okay, so Anakin needs to turn to the dark side. He needs to fall out with Obi-Wan. All the Jedi need to be gone, and there's all these bullet points of things. I was writing like just stupid, dumb fan fiction and stuff because I was really excited about that 3-year wait between films. Now we're kind of spoiled. Now things get cranked out pretty fast.
What was it? Episode. This is one thing I didn't like. Well, I mean, I didn't like many things the sequels did, but one of the things I didn't like that sequels did was you had episode 4 was in 77, episode 5 is an 80 episode, so it was always 3 years. They did the same with the prequel trilogy. It was always 3 years. The sequel trilogy went every 2 years. I was like, you just fucked it up. Like, why would you do that? It's really annoying. I hated it.
Yeah, they wanted that return on their investment, didn't you? And if we're splitting hairs, if we're talking about Star Wars movies in general, it was one every year, wasn't it? They were bringing them out.
What, I mean, during the sequel stuff?
Yeah.
I was going to say, It
was like 7, Rogue One, 8, this. It was just, they were turning it into the Marvel cash cow, weren't they? But yeah, so just all those years ago, like Revenge of the Sith was such a special time. I had the video games as well. One of the best movie tie-in video games of all time.
That was hard. That last level with the fight with the Anakin, that was hard.
And the fact that was released so many months before the film actually came out. So if you played that game, you'd have a pretty good understanding of where it's going. And there's a lot of deleted scenes in there and earlier concepts from the novelization and whatnot, and obviously from the video game itself, which were unfortunately cut out from the final movie. But we went to see it again tonight, and this was actually on a recommendation from Carl, who is in the comments. He says, "Hello there. How's it going?" I know I need to say General Kenobi.
My favorite is the Ozzy Osbourne one. But Ozzy Osbourne says hello there, and then that's my favorite one.
And I think we were doing one of our Don Bluth streams, maybe, and I think tickets had just gone on sale for Revenge of the Sith. And I was just going to go and see it at my local Odeon. And then I was having second thoughts. I thought, well, I saw it last year. My opinion won't have changed on it all that much. It's not like I haven't seen it recently on the big screen. And Carl said that I'm off to see it Cineworld 4DX. Now, I've never done a 4DX film before. I wasn't sure if you had, but I asked you when we were driving to the cinema, and you haven't really.
No, it was the same as you in the sense of, like, when you go to Disneyland and you have like a 5-minute pirate movie, and you're like, that kind of thing. That's the only time.
Yeah, same. I think when I was like 7 years old, I went to Disneyland Paris, and there was a Honey, I Shrunk the Audience kind of thing, which had similar things. I think they had sort of things that whipped past your ankles. Like they turned the audience into mice or something. It was meant to be mice scurrying, and they had these little things by your ankles. That's the only time I've done it. But in terms of like a proper cinema going experience, this new 4DX thing, I've never done it before. Yeah. And when Carl mentioned he was going to see it, first and foremost, I didn't even know they were putting Star Wars in 4DX. I didn't even know where my local 4DX cinema was. I've never been. I didn't know anything about it. But I thought, well, if I'm going to go and see Star Wars again, why not watch it with a twist, with a bit of a gimmick this time? And I've done the whole 3D thing before, but 4DX was brand new. So we went to Birmingham Cineworld. And the first thing, you actually get physical tickets, which was nice. I haven't had those in a while from the cinema. I used to save my cinema tickets, so
I really
I'm
wish
going to be saving that one.
Ticket with Black Sabbath, don't you?
Yeah, me
that
too.
Really cool.
Me too. But... So 4DX, for anyone who doesn't know, the chairs move. There's scents. There's water jets. It feels like someone's punching the back of your chair sometimes. It's basically like a roller coaster. For anyone who's seen, you've seen the Mr. Bean movie, right?
Mm-hmm. Which one? Mr. Bean movie.
The first one, like yeah.
But yeah.
Do you remember when they're on that roller coaster thing and he fucks with the controls and he's like, brace yourself, and it's just like jerking them all around? It's that. I felt like I had shaken baby
like
syndrome.
A simulator, isn't it? Like being one of those machines. Like
So, well, before the film even started, we got some trailers, and they were like 4DX trailers. I think we got How to Train Your Dragon,
That
Mission
confused
Impossible.
me because they did it for How to Train Your Dragon, and then they did 2 other trailers, and nothing happened. Then they showed How to Train Your Dragon again, and I was like, I feel like we've done this.
Yeah,
It was the weirdest thing.
it was bizarre. I'd said to you that I feel like that was a test drive for anyone who went along to it, and it shakes you around and it shows you what 4DX is basically about. And if it's not for you, you've still got time to get out of your seat and leave. There was a little old lady in front of me, and I was really concerned for her because it actually caught me off guard when it started to jerk me around in the chair. I thought, I need a seatbelt or something, or one of those roller coaster things that lock you in place, because it shakes you around quite a bit.
That was a really weird set of people. Little old lady. Then there was obviously like her daughter, who was maybe like 50 something. No, she would have been older than that.
And anyway, granddaughter.
Yeah, and it was really weird. But it was just those, and they did not look like Star Wars fans. It was just the weirdest set of people to come together that I just didn't.
It's generational, isn't it? But the whole time I was trying to enjoy the movie. I was trying to enjoy the experience, but my eyes did keep looking at the little old lady just to check if she was okay. Yeah. 4DX then. You hadn't done it before either. Let's go into like initial opinions on what the viewing experience was like for it.
It was interesting. It was fun. It was interesting. I don't think 2.5 hours is meant for that to happen though, because it was very like, I did think that at first when it was happening. I was like, oh yeah, cool. And I was like, is this going to be happening for 2.5 hours? It was a bit. But the thing is, obviously, the whole movie doesn't do that. It's not going to be just constantly, because there's bits where they just sit down, they talk, whatever. But I think that whole thing does. You benefit more in like a 10-minute little thing rather than two. Because also after a certain amount of time, the novelty's worn off, and so you go, oh, okay, that's cool. But then it keeps happening, and not that it was bad that it kept happening. But what I'm saying is, a 10-minute is just kind of, oh, that was really cool. You recommend it to someone when you're like, oh, do you know what I recommend? Let's go see this pirate movie. It's really good. But with this, you're like, oh, okay, that was fun, and then you come out going, yeah, no, it was a good experience. But you don't find yourself saying to people, oh, we come do this. Like, you don't find it's a different kind of good, if that makes sense.
I'm glad we went to see it in 4DX, and I'm glad I've sort of like ticked that, crossed that off the bucket list now that I've done it. I don't know whether I would go again to something like this. I think if you're going to do a film like this, it needs to be some kind of action movie, and maybe those are the kind of movies that they outfit with 4DX anyway. I'm not really sure.
I'm trying to remember if I saw a movie in, what's that place in London, like the big dome,
BFI IMAX.
Is it? Yeah, is that what it is? I think it is. Yeah, the IMAX. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So I went there. Is that just 3D? Do they do 4D?
I don't think it's just 3D. No, I think they do 2D as well.
No, it was in 4D. Do they do that?
Oh, I've no idea.
Only because I went there to see this movie called like The Haunted Castle or something years ago. It was like a 30-minute movie. I feel like that was 4D. I can't remember. I know it's definitely 3D.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I just can't remember that. But I remember that was fun.
Well, it started off for the How to Train Your Dragon trailer, and I must admit, I did think, oh Christ, what am I signing up for? I was actually kind of worried because it was really shaking you about and like leaning the chair forward. I thought I was going to like topple out. You had nachos and a drink.
Yeah.
And every time you went to go and sip your drink, and it would like jerk you around. You were like, I just think I'm not even going to bother.
I need to finish this drink.
But there were cup holders in the seat.
Yeah, but that didn't change it because they moved. It wasn't like they were still and it moved around it. So I took it out of the thing. Yeah. I was like, that's just gonna.
So I thought, if you need to go to the bathroom during this movie, you're fucked. Because if you've got to try and get back in your chair,
you'd be like, I can't sit down yet. It's moving.
Yeah, and really, most of the 4D stuff with this movie happened with the action scenes. I did wonder if it was going to be all the way throughout the movie, and then I was playing the movie back in my head, thinking, how are you going to 4DX the couch conversations where it's just two characters sat talking, like flat dialogue? Is the chair just going to sort of hover a little bit? But it was kind of punctuated, wasn't it? It was just really the main big action scenes.
Yeah.
The main one I was looking forward to with this movie was the opening shot, the Battle of Coruscant, with the two Jedi starfighters coming in. That's one of my favorite opening shots of any Star Wars movie. It's one of my favorite opening action scenes out of all the films. And yeah, even as a kid when I'm watching it, you're like you wish you were in those starfighters alongside Anakin and Obi-Wan. And I got to live that tonight. It was great. So yeah, I really got a kick out of that. What I was fascinated about, and I want to try and do some research on this if I can, is who programs the specific movements of the timings.
Or is there someone at the top doing that?
No.
Whilst they're watching, they're like, right, this bit comes in, and you never know.
I don't think there's going to be like a DJ in the booth or anything controlling everything like the Wizard of Oz or anything like that.
Well, is this still a thing? Because it's been a long time since I've thought about stuff. So like in the cinema, obviously you've got the projector, the light, all right. I mean, you look there, and I remember this as a kid. You'd look there, and you'd see a person behind the thing. Are they still there, or do they not have a person behind it anymore?
Probably not now. Did they? That would be like changing reels, wouldn't they?
Yeah, it would have been like. I remember a person behind it. I don't remember how they would have. I didn't research into exactly what they were doing, but you know, I mean, I think they changed they did whatever. But like I say, now they'll just all
be on a hard drive now. Just if it's a new release, they'd probably like put a passcode in or something, and just away they go.
Yeah, so it's probably on like a That's the thing. I always remember that where there was all like you could see someone behind it or whatever. But yeah, I just imagine them just sitting there just doing that with the movie and stuff.
But it feels like with something like this, someone must have to like watch through the movie and almost like a conductor sort of go, right, okay, so you can see his ship moves a little bit to the left there, so we need to make sure that the chairs
it's all AI
to the
these
left.
days, though, isn't it? AI going when the volume goes up, you move it like so.
Could be. I was thinking.
I don't think AI would. I don't think
it wouldn't be that sophisticated.
I don't think. But that's what will end up happening. Give it 5 years, it'll be AI doing it. Probably even less than that.
The stuff like towards the end where when she was alive, I felt it, and Vader starts going crazy and crushing everything. He crushes this thing that's got like a blood bank or something, and then you get like a jet of water, like it's the liquid from it, sort of giving you a money shot, I guess. Like there were loads of things like that. The one thing that I was a little bit disappointed about, there was meant to be like the scent of stuff every now and then would spray through the chairs. There was one. There was one case, and it was like the smell of I guess it was like burnt toast, like
it wasn't that
burnt
much though. It was just a bit. What did it smell like? I feel like I was like, it smells like my nan's. Like it smells like medicine or something. I can't remember. It was something.
It feels like when you get some aftershave and you just here you go. You just do that. You spray it and then you just like walk through it and that's it. It's just sort of like that. There's a couple of water jets I think I saw during the.
They should have had it. What does sulfur smells horrible? They should have had it smell like that the whole time, like proper. Yeah, that would have been great.
I think during Order 66 when it cuts to Maigito and you have the bit where Kylie Mundi dies, I think I saw some like smoke machines at the front, but it was very, very subtle. So
yeah, I did. It's like when it was raining as well. There was it was constant just spray of like
So I'm just going to get to some of the comments now, and then we'll talk about some of our favorite scenes in 4DX and maybe some not so great moments or whatnot. We've got Bath Time. He says, "It's the lads. I hope you've been drinking as much as I have." I haven't. I mean, you had a beer at the cinema. I've got a tea. You've tried Yorkshire biscuit tea for the first time.
That was really nice.
Should we do a review on that now? Review Yorkshire biscuit tea.
It actually tastes like little nice biscuits. I like that.
It does. Good. Bath Time says, "Has Dale deliberately worn a Van Halen t-shirt for the stream?"
I thought that as well. I thought that afterwards of just like the Van Halen reference. But
that's just your wardrobe.
That is just my thing. Yeah, I picked it out this morning, and it was one of the ones because in my new place, there's still a few things under boxes and under whatever. It was at the bottom of it. I remember that t-shirt.
Carl says, "Watched it in 4DX last night. It was a ton of fun. The whole crowd was into it. The opening space battle was incredible. Felt like I got battered." Yeah, that's what I was saying. It felt like I had shaken baby syndrome through most of this, in all honesty. But you know what? I did kind of get into it, especially the first bit, definitely. Another bit that I quite enjoyed as well with the 4DX was Obi-Wan Kenobi chasing Grievous down on the dinosaur.
That was cool.
And it's the bit where it's my least favorite ship out of all the 6 Star Wars films because I don't understand this ship. It's the giant hamster wheel that Grievous is in, but it's got 4 bipedal legs.
My favorite is the Imperial Shuttle.
Oh yeah,
triangle. That's my favorite.
I just said 4 bipedal legs. I just realized what I said.
4 by.
It's just what am I talking about? It's been a long day. But it's like when he jumps off that platform and like free falls in Utapau and the chairs, you kind of lurch with that jump. Stuff like that was cool. I really enjoyed that. We thought someone was like snapping like flash photography at the beginning, didn't we?
And then it was like a constant light up there going like that.
It was a little strobe light.
Yeah.
And that was kind of cool with Grievous with the arms, like that thing was flashing like we're in some kind of rave. So there were some cool bits throughout, but yeah, I was actually really surprised, like where Carl mentioned, felt like I got battered. Yeah, it pulled no punches right from the off, and then I was actually kind of regretting it, thinking, "Oh my god, I've got to do a whole film of this," and just knowing how much longer the whole invisible hand segment went on for. It goes on even longer in the novelization. It takes up like the first maybe more than quarter of the book. It's just all the invisible hand stuff.
I still don't like the fact that Plagueis is meant to still be around in episode 1.
Yeah, I don't like that either, especially in this because he says it's a Sith legend. I'm like, can you call it a legend when it happened? What, 10 years ago?
I don't know.
13 years ago.
I thought this the other day. What makes things legends and makes things like classics? Like for instance, Harry Potter is going to be a classic now,
Mm-hmm.
but like when it was out, it wasn't a classic. I don't know. But what makes things like that?
Well, the argument is as well is that was Palpatine just making that shit up? Did he just go, "Oh, have you heard this story? There was this guy called Plagueis who could keep people alive. He cared about." It could have just been a tale to win him over.
I don't believe it was just made up because the way he looks and stuff when he says it, like when he talks about his apprentice killed him in his sleep, you can see he was kind of like, I did that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I believe that was all real. I don't like. Thing is, I've not actually read the Plagueis book yet.
It's very good.
I do need to because I know obviously about it. I know his existence, but I know a rough idea of it. It does sound good, so I should, and I do like the character of Darth Plagueis. But I just that doesn't sit well with me. The fact that he's still around because realistically that means there's 3, not 2.
Yeah. Well,
I know you've said it before in the sense of he's technically like a Sith apprentice or whatever, or like
an assassin.
Yeah, that's it, like a Sith.
But he calls him Darth, doesn't he?
That's the thing. To me, it doesn't sit well. I mean, I might read it and I'll headcanon it out and go, do you know what? This makes sense because of this, and I'll
It's a really good book, and especially towards the end, I'm not going to give anything. Well, I say give anything away. You've seen the movies, but the book starts to lead into Phantom Menace kind of stuff, and it really feels like Star Wars Episode 0.5, genuinely. And it has made me look at Phantom Menace in a slightly different light, and I appreciate it a lot more from reading this book, which you shouldn't do. The film should stand on its own, and I get that, but it even sets stuff up about like Cypher Dis and setting the Dooku stuff up as well for Attack of the Clones.
It's really good. It's not long, is it? To be fair, either.
Not massively. The audiobook, I know you don't like audiobooks, but the audiobook's fantastic, and it has music, it has sound effects, and the person reading the book and doing the voice of Plagueis is really good too.
See, this is one thing. Now, I know movies you can't do this with, and I like movies. You can't do this with modern video games. But the thing I like about books and old video games and stuff is like everything, like people's voices you imagine how they would sound. And we were saying this on the car here, like for instance, I read Harry Potter, the second one, before I saw the movie, and the amount of things where characters would say things were literally just straightly pulled from the book. But I was like, that's not how it's supposed to sound. And the amount of times, or someone would say a line, that was it. There's a lot, right? There's one thing I remember off the top of my head now, but when Tom Riddle says about the basilisk going, "Oh, it'll only come when it's called," right? In the movie, he says it really fast, goes, "Only comes when it's called." And I was like, that is not how he says it. I remember sitting there in a cinema being like, no, that's not how you're supposed to phrase it. And it's so annoying. But the point is, with books and stuff, you can imagine that. So that's one reason, is because it's that period where you can imagine it. And it's kind of taken that away from me. Do you know what I mean? So there is that. Also, plus I zone out really easily. I'm like, hang on.
And I mean, there's even points, sticking with the Harry Potter films, where it outright ignores the way that it's meant to be said. It's that meme one in Goblet of Fire. Yeah. It's like, did you put your name in the Goblet of Fire? Yeah. Dumbledore said calmly. It's like,
yeah, that's. But this is the thing I do like. As I say, this is one reason I love old video games as well, is because when characters do a little thing, like you'll have little sprites will just punch someone and then they'll die. Obviously, they didn't just punch them because a little punch isn't just going to kill someone. So you imagine it, like, oh, okay, he stabbed this person, did this. But then if you had a remake in all 3D and that doesn't happen, you'd be like, no, he's supposed to do this, and it feels like a lie. But yeah, it's I also zone out too easily for an audiobook.
No, I can see that. I'm the opposite way now, unfortunately. Just ADHD brain, or probably too much social media and whatnot.
Oh, yeah, the amount of times I'll read a page and I have to go back and I go, hang on, I need to read that again.
That's
like,
me.
I do that a lot. Yeah. But yeah, it's just with audiobooks, I'll be sitting there listening to it. They'll say a word and I'll be like, oh yeah, remember that? And then my head will start thinking, like, they'll say saucepan, and my head will start thinking, I wonder when the saucepan was invented. Oh, remember the guy that invented the light bulb? Didn't he do this? And before you know it, I'm on a tangent thinking about electricity. It's got nothing to do with it. Then I have to rewind 20 minutes of the audiobook because I haven't been paying attention.
Yeah.
So
It's really a struggle. It really is. Bath Time says George Lucas will 1,000,000,000% have aged the characters with the audience. He's a big believer that myth reflects ego. Yeah, and that's what we were referring to at the beginning of the stream, where I really connected with Anakin as a 6-year-old. I was like, he's 9 years old. He's doing all these cool things. He's flying a spaceship and whatnot.
And that's the kind of thing you want, in the sense of because it's even like for instance, this isn't to do with actual characters as much, but like when you get like the Arkham games and Batman the Animated Series. Now, obviously, we watched Batman the Animated Series as a kid, but then as we've grown up and became adults, they released Arkham. That was like 2009, so it was like young adults. But it was that sort of, now we're older, we've been more interested in something a bit more mature and stuff. So they've literally aged the story in that way. They've now geared it towards the same audience, but now because you're a little bit older, we've and I love things that do that. Like I say, like Toy Story, it kind of grows up with you, and they do that, and that's one thing that Incredibles did wrong, isn't it? It just didn't really. It was like, well, we're just going to set it like it was literally been a day. I haven't seen that movie, by the way, because it sounds awful. But I'm just saying, I just know from what you said, that's one of the things, and it doesn't sit right.
Yeah, no, totally. And then I'm trying to think of like the ages going. Then it was 3 years, wasn't it? So yeah, I would have been 9, sort of going on 10 when Attack of the Clones came out, and I don't remember having a massive connection with Attack of the Clones as a film. I think I maybe only went to see it once at the cinema. I don't think I went to see it multiple times, but the merchandising was huge, and me and my mate, we'd like reenact lightsaber fights, and I guess we were getting older. We connected more with Anakin in sort of like his younger years and how cool he was as a Jedi and the fights and everything like that. That's the stuff and the friendship of Anakin and Obi-Wan in that movie. Bits where they're in like the fighting pit or they're fighting back to back and whatnot. Just the more heroic kind of stuff. And I remember it was either when we came out of that film, or it could have been when we were just shooting the shit, sort of, in the years between episode 2 and episode 3 coming out. And we went, oh, we're going to be like 13 when that movie comes out. We're going to be so old. And I remember sitting in the back of my mum's old car, me and him, I think we had like a pack of Walker's crisps on the go, salt and vinegar flavor. We're talking about Star Wars, as you do. Some things never change. And we just said, 13, I'm going to be so old when that comes out. Now I'm 32. Oh, God, it's awful. It's awful. But I'm still seeing Revenge of the Sith, and it still had an impact on me. But definitely at that time, 13, not to mention the film was a 12A as well. It was the highest rated Star Wars film at that time. It was a lot more violent. It was a lot more hard-hitting and a lot more tragic, but you could kind of handle it. You'd aged up with the films, and you were ready to have that stuff, I think, at the age of like 13 and whatnot.
That is the thing.
You're getting moodier yourself, hormones, you're getting angstier and stuff like, yeah. You're not killing younglings, hopefully, but yeah.
And then we bypassed episode 2, which was a PG, because we didn't need it.
Yeah. I don't mind Attack of the Clones. I know you really fucking hate it, but yeah. Let's go through some more comments here. Bath Time says the Lord of the Rings trilogy kind of reframed expectations around release dates and still does to this day. Yeah.
First one came out on my birthday.
December 17th?
It did indeed.
Yeah.
Yes,
I know that date.
I was going to say, it's like, you don't remember my birthday.
No, but I remember.
Yeah.
That's probably like the mate I just mentioned about going to see Star Wars with. His is the same day.
No, it's 17th. Not. It can't be.
No, it is.
Well, I mean, it can be, but I've never met anyone with the same birthday.
For his birthday, we went to see Return of the King opening day, December 17th.
I've never seen anyone with the same birthday as me. So that's why I'm like, that's mad. That's interesting.
So you always get cool movies. Well, you used to get cool movies come out in December. Maybe not now.
Well, I feel like episode 7 is the same birthday as me, actually. I feel like episode 7 was the 17th.
Oh, it was December, wasn't it? Yeah.
It was either the 15th or the 17th.
Yeah, it was around there.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Well, you'll probably have Avatar 3 this year.
His birthday was December 17th. I remember that. Someone that touches kid. Anyway.
Well, I was thinking, like, Bath Times just mentioned the Lord of the Rings trilogy there, and I'm trying to think with 4DX, would I go and see the Lord of the Rings in 4DX? And I probably would, knowing me, like, just, I've seen it on the big screen before, I haven't seen it in 4DX, but that's a long sit. That's an even longer sit than this movie. It's like an extra hour. So I agree with you. I think it is a very long time, but I like how with this experience, at least, punctuated it with the still scene. There were still moments where the film was just playing and the chairs weren't moving. It was really just the action scenes.
They need to do Shrek in 4D. And you know how like there's a scene I can think
Holding
of.
out for a hero.
Yeah,
Shrek
but
2.
no, they did. It's in the first one where Shrek tries to scare Donkey and he growls in his face, and you can see Donkey just looking at it. And they should do that with the scents, just have the biggest, like the gassiest smell ever. That would be amazing.
Well, the bit where he goes like, "Oh, Shrek, was that you?" And he says, "It's brimstone. We're getting close to the castle."
Yeah, that movie is how I found out what brimstone was.
Yeah, probably same.
Yeah.
Probably same. Bath Time says, "Does it add anything to the experience? Seems like the theme parkification of cinema. Just make better films." It is a gimmick. It 100% is. And to be honest, I didn't expect it to be anything else. When you get all these adverts on YouTube and Cineworld saying like, immerse yourself in the film, feel a part of the film and whatnot. Yeah, I never really had that. As I say, like the Battle of Coruscant at the beginning where you've got the ships and you're moving with it, that felt pretty cool. I'm not going to lie. That scene did feel like you were almost, side by side with them in the ship at some points. But I've always wanted to just kind of relive that moment at the beginning of the film in some kind of simulation, because it feels very simulation-like at the beginning with how the camera's tracking them over, and they go over that Star Destroyer and arc down, and you've got the whole war above Coruscant.
Well, I said this at the beginning. They should start doing LSD experiences, 5D, and then they give you a tab of acid like an hour before, and then you go in, and then you feel like you live it.
Yeah,
It'd be great. That's what they should do. That's an idea to make money.
What do you think to Bath Time's point there about? Do you feel like it added to the experience of the film?
Well, it didn't add to it. No, in the sense of if I'd never seen it before and I saw it like that, I wouldn't think I'm glad I saw it like that though. Like, do you know what I mean? It's not. But also it depends, because I don't think it does, but we're not used to seeing movies like that. Now, imagine every movie was immersive like that, and then you got one that wasn't. So I don't know. I think it might just be, but like it is a gimmick kind of thing. But I don't think it adds to it, because I think the movie sits, exactly the same without it.
Uh-huh.
But if obviously there's going to be certain rules and stuff on what they can and can't do with that, because of what people like and all that sort of stuff. But I think if there was a way they went a little bit more all out, maybe it could have, because there's some things like you'd think, I don't know, maybe it would heat up more or something like this here and there. But then obviously there's certain things they're just never going to do because people aren't going to be comfortable with that. But something like that, would that add to it? I guess. But I just think the thing is they've got to play it safe, haven't they, as well?
Well, that's what I was saying to you. I was like, pyrotechnics is the next bit to go for, isn't it? Big, balls of fire and whatnot. Like you've seen like front row at a Kiss concert or something like that. I think if they messed around with the temperature a little bit, like when we got to Mustafar, I thought, they're going to crank up like the air conditioning, but like the heating in there and just make it really swelteringly hot. That's not going to be a comfortable viewing experience for some people, I guess. But then again, getting thrown around in your chair like you're in a car accident isn't a comfortable experience to watch a movie.
Imagine, remember in Dark Knight when all those people got shot, like in real life? Yeah. Remember that in the cinema? Imagine that was a 4D showing and they just thought it was really realistic. They were like, when people are getting shot. That could have been it. And then,
I was going to say they'd have a hard time hitting you, wouldn't you? Because it's like, whoa, you can't get me. Well,
that would be, But that's what I would have thought that for a few seconds if it was me. I'd be like, that's realistic, isn't it? And then you die. I
remember going to see sort of related but a little bit tangential. I went to see Dunkirk at the IMAX when it came out, the Christopher Nolan movie. That is the loudest film I have ever seen in my life, and to the point where it was actually hurting your ears. And when a gunshot went off, I think when the first bullet goes off in that movie and the first shot's fired, it was so deafeningly loud. Like your ears were ringing. I thought someone had opened fire in the cinema because it felt like it was someone had put a gun right there and pulled the trigger. It was that loud. Yeah. And then because it was a war movie, I was actually, like the characters in the film, dreading more gunfire going off because my ears were ringing, or a plane swooping down as well. God, it was so loud. It was way too loud, I thought. But that kind of added to my immersive experience. They should add electricity to the seats, so you get electrocuted every now and then. That'd be cool. When R2D2 is zapping. Yeah, that's what I mean. They should have added something. Carl says Fast and Furious would be good for 4DX. Fast and Furious would be shit anywhere. Don't like that movie series. Next. They're a guilty pleasure of mine, I must admit. No, do you know what? I liked Tokyo Drift. I remember seeing that as a kid. I liked that. I thought that was cool. All the rest is just fucking awful. They're very hit and miss. Mostly miss than hit, but I don't mind some of them.
Yeah.
Battime says Palpatine has very strong Jack Sparrow vibes in Revenge of the Sith. Everyone is taking things seriously, and he's just rampaging around in a pantomime. Yeah, he did get a lot of laughs. I think the biggest laugh, because I love that when a film's become meme worthy, it's in the pop culture. I always get a kick out of seeing these big meme films where you can hear the pockets of people laughing or talking and whatnot. And I think the biggest laugh in the film was Master Skywalker. There are too many of them. There was a guy at the front who just cackled, just let out the biggest goddamn laugh. It was hilarious.
The one thing that always gets a laugh, and this has for the last 20 years, every time I've been to cinema, I see this movie. Every time I did a project on it in college. So when they've got, like the dual battles, is Obi-Wan versus Anakin, and you've got Yoda and Palpatine. So you got that dual battle going on. In college, I did a whole because we had a project to take a movie scene, take the sound off and do the sound ourselves. So put it all on there. And I did that scene. So when for instance, with the lightsabers, I put a mic over a speaker and it goes, it makes that kind of sound. Anyway, so so I did that. And then I remember when it cuts to Yoda and he just does that to the guards and they fall on the floor. And I just got this, do you know what I mean? I did that with the sound. And every single time, from the time I showed it to someone in college, someone burst out laughing. When I first went to cinema, everyone laughed. This time, everyone, that scene just always everyone just finds it hilarious. It's been 20 years and people still find it funny.
No, it's a great moment. There is some genuinely funny lines in this movie that people still get a kick out of, even regardless of the meme stuff. But that does help. Similar scene. It's just kind of how awkward it's filmed. The bit where Yoda force pushes Palpatine and he flies back and falls back over his chair and his little feet kicking in the air with his little shoes. That's a little bit dumb. And then even 20 years ago, I remember kind of laughing at this where he's like, no. He just randomly puts on the voice and he goes full pantomime.
I hate when he goes, power. I fucking hate that. Why? It's do you know, I hate that. I hate the name Dragon Force. Now, Dragon Force, they're an okay band. Not my favorite. Don't dislike them. But that name, it just sounds like one of those things of did you get a 4-year-old to go, what's really called Dragon Force or power? It just, it's anyone past the age of 15 should not be coming up words like Dragon Force and going power. I don't know.
And his little faces he makes when Ian McDiarmid's awkwardly swinging a lightsaber, he hasn't got a fucking clue what he's doing. He's just
yeah, that was.
This is meant to be this, super trained Sith fighter. He's just, but it's.
But
we love him. He's
I
great.
Still think, and I think we touched on this last time briefly. I think it was to do with Yoda. Yoda and Palpatine shouldn't be shown with lightsabers until that very last battle between the two of them.
So you'd still have the battle in there, would you?
Yeah, I still would. So, for instance, at the end of 2, so obviously Yoda fights Dooku. I think Yoda should have been the fight between Anakin and Dooku.
The Force.
Yeah, he should have done that, and it would have shown him overpower Dooku in the sense of he's got powers we haven't even seen him use a lightsaber, and look how good he is. And then in 3, we only see him pull out the lightsaber against Sidious. So you're okay, this guy is proper. I think that's the way that should have been done. And Sidious should have only pulled out his lightsaber with them. I think when it had Kit Fisto and stuff, I think they should have done something a bit different. I mean, I'm not opposed to a little bit of he used the Force, then he gets the lightsaber to execute them. Fair enough, but he used the lightsaber too much in this movie. I think
that fight scene could have been so cool. If you imagine if you had all 4 Jedi Masters and it's just Palpatine, a 4-on-1 fight.
I was so upset in Battlefront 2 on PlayStation 2 when Kit Fisto wasn't included. On the Xbox version, he was. But in the PlayStation version, he wasn't, and it really upset me. And the other thing that's upsetting is in the remaster they've done, they've included Kit Fisto on PlayStation, but the remaster's shit, so we don't want to play it. So, fucking annoys me.
I've got some more comments. Carl says, although it's seen as a joke, I do like when Anakin is first in the suit and shouts, no. The next shouts, no. The next shouts the same thing is when he kills the Emperor and bookends his story. It's like poetry, it rhymes. See, I fucking hated that edition in Return of the Jedi. I remember when that Blu-ray box set was released, and I discovered that there were even more changes made to it, and I thought, God, what have they done now? And you had A New Hope, and they changed the weird noise that Obi-Wan Kenobi makes to scare the Sand People away, and I've played that sound for you. It's fucking ridiculous. It's why did you change that? Adding a CGI rock in front of R2, which makes it just really impractical for him to even get in that cave and hide from the Jawas. blinking Ewoks, adding a CGI Sebulba character walking through Jabba's palace because why not? But the straw that broke the camel's back for me was adding that no. And I'm not even opposed to it at the end of episode 3. Like a lot of people say, oh, this is stupid, this is dumb. I guess I've just seen a lot of movies where characters shout no when someone's about to die or
I love
dies.
it just because every time he does it, I just think of Buzz Lightyear go, no.
Well, there's that. There's I can't spoil it because you haven't seen the greatest movies of all time behind me. But there's a moment where something happens to a character, and a character shouts no in slow motion. You've got Man of Steel, which is a shit movie, and I don't like it. But at the end, where he snaps Zod's neck, and then he just screams out. I'm used to characters doing that, so I'm not opposed to that. But I am opposed to it when it fucks with one of the best scenes in cinema history, as far as I'm concerned, which is the ending of Return of the Jedi, because you don't need it. You get everything you need from the mask, where he's just looking back and forth at the Emperor and his son.
The when the Emperor falls down in Return of the Jedi, you know how like the blue comes up? Was that always there?
Yes.
Right, because I, for some reason as a kid, don't actually remember the blue happening. I only remember it as I got older. I was like, was that always there? And I've always questioned that. But this is one thing in terms of Toy Story that I've just thought of. So, you know how Toy Story always has the Star Wars references, and Toy Story 2, the whole Zurg, I am your father, blah, 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 blah. In the Toy Story 2 game, when you knock Zurg off, when you beat him on his boss level, you knock him off the elevator, he falls down the elevator shaft, and it has like a yellow swirl. The same.
Does it?
Yeah, it does that.
That's amazing.
It's yellow, or it's green, it's one of them. But yeah, that's another Star Wars.
I didn't know that. That's really cool. Yeah, I like even when we got to Toy Story 3.
Yeah, Big Baby.
The Big Baby when he throws it. Yeah.
And then 4, they just fucked it. 4 didn't happen. It's fine.
Okay, but so we covered the OT in Toy Story 1, 2, and 3.
4 should
so then does 4 go
Phantom
Menace?
Technically cover Phantom Menace, only because we don't want to cover 7. But then again, Toy Story 4 didn't happen. So
it's true. Bathtime says the scene where he becomes Darth Vader spiritually is also played backwards in Return of the Jedi. It's really cool. I've always appreciated the scene where he becomes Vader. That scene in particular where the mask goes on, you get the hydraulic sounds, and it's just the still close up, and you're waiting in anticipation, and you get that first breath. That just gave you chills when you watched that the first time, and it still has that impact on me now. And Darth Vader's been around for years. I know the character and everything, but every time I watch that scene, it's just done so perfectly. I love it. And I remember seeing a video where you can kind of hear in a very, very raspy voice Anakin saying, I think he says, "Padme, help me," right before the mask goes on and seals him in. It's good stuff. Not to mention, George Lucas is really inspired by a lot of older films, and that scene where he comes up on the chair, that's just Frankenstein, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's just, yeah. I remember the original trailer coming out, and Vader was in this pose, and his arms were up like this in the original trailer that came out for the film.
I also remember though, when he comes up, it doesn't play the Imperial March, but I remember a version where it did. Now, I don't know whether that's just my memory doing it.
It might be the trailer.
Yeah, maybe. Or the trailer, or it was in the game. I feel like that was a thing in the trailer of the game, but I say it could just be my memory doing it because in my head it looks cool. Mm-hmm. But I feel like there was something in the trailer of the game that does that with the actual Imperial March. I don't know.
I think it was a good call, though, to bring his arms down, because I actually can't remember if in the original Frankenstein movie his arms are up like this, or if they're down at his side. I'm not sure. But yeah, if he came up on the bed and he just stood there and it was like, "Darth Vader, can you hear me?" And his arms are still up in like this little...
When did Frankenstein become a green thing with bolts in his neck?
That was the 30s movie, wasn't it? It was the Universal Monsters movie.
That's not obviously how he was.
When did that
become a thing? Because
it would have been from the black and white Universal Monsters movie then, probably.
Yeah, I've not seen that. It's weird about Frankenstein, though, isn't it? Because Frankenstein is obviously the name of the guy. Frankenstein's monster just called Frankenstein's monster, and also the green thing with the bolts isn't actually Frankenstein. So it feels like the original Frankenstein. Everything in future is just like, oh, we're just pretending. Like everything is all fake. Like the whole, like he's not called Frankenstein. Doesn't have to. I don't know. Feels like it's a fake movie.
Carl says, I read this re-release. Yeah, no, I did see something about this actually. Yeah, I read this re-release is due to make 50 million this weekend. It just shows there is an audience for good Star Wars. If only Disney could tap into what works. Yeah, and I'm really grateful it's still making money and there's an audience for it. There's not a lot out at the cinema at the moment. I think you've got Marvel's Thunderbolts coming out is the next sort of big movie, but I don't expect that's going to make. That's later on in the year, yeah. But I don't think that Marvel's Thunderbolts is going to make a whole lot of money. So it's great that this is in cinemas for another week. And for a lot of people, I've heard that they think that Revenge of the Sith is their favorite Star Wars movie. And there's definitely a lot of stuff that happens in it. One could argue too much stuff happens in this one movie. And it all happens very, very fucking quickly towards the end. But no, it's great. I mean, we paid money to see it. So we've added to that 50 million. And I would rather throw my money at proper Star Wars, even if it's prequel Star Wars, probably not, not as good as the original trilogy, but there is an audience for it. And it is by the maker, George Lucas.
It's better than the first, the first one, the second one. Better than the second one.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know if I prefer it to the first one. Kind of on par. Very, very good movies. I would say very, very good movies. I like both of them. I like 1 and 3, and I like them for reasons that a lot of people don't. Like I like 1. I really do.
Yeah,
but it did not like 2.
Mm-hmm. And there's just little things about this as well, where it's the benefit of hindsight. Now, it took Disney to make a worse trilogy for people to come around to George. And I was thinking about this as well. Would I rather have just these 6 Star Wars films? Let's say George Lucas never signed it over to Disney, and it was just these 6 films.
Yes, that's what I would rather.
And people had 3 films they really loved. And probably to this day, people would still be shitting on the prequels, saying, oh, George Lucas, raped our childhood and did this and did that. Or would I keep history as it's been, with Disney making a worse trilogy for people to come back round to George and saying, we've got 6 great movies there?
No, I prefer it about Disney touching it. Disney do not touch Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
No, I prefer that world.
Yeah. And I do like little things how at the beginning of the film you have the 20th Century Fox fanfare, which to me is part of Star Wars. I know that logo is completely separate and has got nothing to do with Star Wars. It's on at the beginning of many, many films, but that just feels like an overture leading you into the movie. And I think it was intentionally that the Star Wars main theme by John Williams was intentionally written to be it because it's in the same key as the 20th Century Fox fanfare. I think the 20th Century Fox fanfare actually may have been used in older films. I think George Lucas may have brought it back even for that 1977 one, if I remember correctly. And then at the end, when it's like written and directed by George Lucas, it's like, yeah, we're on home soil now.
Rather than characters based on based on characters made by George Lucas. Yeah.
And there's no talking down to you. There's no like agendas being pushed or anything. It's just good. It's just escapism. It really is. It is just a good adventure story. And the story beats in there. Like you've got all the ingredients for a good, compelling, Shakespearean or biblical tragedy story. You've got everything in there. Is it fumbled a little bit in some parts? Yeah. Is it ham-fisted in some parts? Definitely, but it's the intention behind it. George Lucas really, to me, is just a bigger picture guy. He can come up with a great idea for a story. I think he just needs a few people in there just to fine-tune it with the writing and do a few passes of things. But yeah, it's still a really fun film. Bath Time says, I can see the stuff in original Star Wars in the gunner seat of the Falcon as being decently suited to 4DX. But the fact these films weren't made in mind for it makes me think it's wasted. Well, I did watch a video on Cineworld 4DX when I was trying to just read more about it. And they said that 4D, if you will, goes back to this really, really old film. They used to have sort of like smell-o-vision, and there'd be people there, spraying things or burning things to create a sense of whatever's in the film. So that's sort of the idea in its early infancy, and now we've got chairs that throw you around. Like
I reckon 4D was made like thousands of years ago when people would write like stories and stuff, and they would tell, and it would be like like when you'd be like at camps, they tell each other stories, but then they'd be like, oh, there was a fire, then they'd like do that.
Yeah,
but that's where it all started.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe.
And they'd be like, and then it rained, they get a bucket of water and throw it over. That's what they would do.
That's what I was expecting. When it said water was involved, I was thinking, oh my God, you've got Mygito. with the bit with Coyote-Mundi, and then you've got the very, very end where you go into the Palpatine Surgical Reconstruction Center, and it's torrential.
It would have been made perfect sense if it was on Camino.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my god.
Great.
Waldrig is back. The man from Rings of Power, the one saving grace of that show, says IMAX is the best way to see a movie. 4DX just hurts. I can't imagine going.
Is that Dumbledore?
No, it's Waldrig.
What's that Dumbledore?
Rings of Power is a piece of shit, but Waldrig is the saving grace. He is the hero. I agree. Yeah, I can't imagine going to see a 4DX movie if you've got like any kind of back pain or anything. If you're elderly, as I say, like there was an elderly. She was really old. She was a really old lady sat in front of me, and she didn't die. I think she loved it. Maybe she's like a thrill seeker or something. She could like go on roller coasters, theme parks. Who knows?
Imagine, right, being one of the people that sweeps up the cinema and stuff, and at the end, and a little old lady has died and poking her. Excuse me, miss. Like, I reckon that's happened. I feel like someone's been in that
probably has happened. Yeah.
Would it be even weirder if she was with people and they just left? And you'd be like, interesting. I swear she came with someone.
Bathsime says, I'd quite like to see something like the Naked Gun in 4DX, where they just take the piss with the movements and they have nothing to do with what's on screen.
That's actually that would be great.
JX, how you doing, man? JX says, just finished dinner. I made schnitzel and onion rings. My body hates me. How y'all doing? We're doing pretty good, mate. We're doing pretty good.
Schnitzel's German, isn't it?
Yes, it's very German.
Never had schnitzel. Oh, I have German.
I don't think onion rings is particularly German, though, is it? Is it often paired with schnitzel? I have no idea. I don't think I've ever had schnitzel.
I wonder if schnitzel and pear would be nice.
Pear. I'm just thinking of that scene from Attack of the Clones where he forces the CGI pear over to Padme. Oh, that scene. Yeah, because you mentioned, I kind of prepped you for it, saying like, oh, she looks really different in this scene. It's the
and I was like, this is the reshoot.
It's the reshoot scene, yeah, because she lost so much weight. It was for V for Vendetta, and there's a scene where she's imprisoned in that movie, and she's like starved and whatnot.
I've not seen that movie.
You need. I should lend you that, but no, we need to watch. Fuck that. We need to watch that movie. It's a fantastic film. Bathtime says another happy landing is genuinely a great line with great delivery. Yeah, people laughed at that. A lot of Obi-Wan lines, of course. Hello there, got a big laugh. But yeah, Obi-Wan's great in this. He's so sassy. He's just brilliant. We did talk about the age differences, though. Like, as good as Ewan McGregor is, and as much as people have come around to Hayden Christensen now, they fucked up the ages when you compare it to the OT. In 19 years, we go from Ewan McGregor to Alec Guinness. We go from Hayden Christensen, who's Canadian, to like a late 70-year-old British guy when he takes the mask off in Return of the Jedi. Aunt Beru and Uncle Owen, huge age differences here. So yeah, it is what it is, though.
I remember thinking it was one of the things I thought of when I first saw Revenge of the Sith. I thought, oh, are they supposed? And I was like, they can't be supposed, because I was thinking about obviously Aunt Beru and stuff. They were supposed to see it was Aunt Beru, but I was like, oh, is that supposed to be his aunt? I was like, it can't be. And then I was like, oh, but it is. And I was like, that's weird.
She's like, she's like ancient in a in A New Hope, isn't she?
Yeah, I feel like Uncle Owen's not as bad.
No, maybe not. But
then again, 19, he's quite young in it, still, isn't he? So yeah.
Another big laugh from the film was where the robot comes out and he says like, we're losing her. She's lost the will to live. And people started laughing. And you know what? I don't like the fact, because it breaks continuity when you get to Return of the Jedi and Luke asks Leia, like, do you remember your mother, your real mother? She says, just a little bit. She died when I was very young. This film completely fucks that. So I don't like that about it.
Yeah, but I feel like I said this before. Your memory can lie to you and you want to know things. Like, it could be a case of like, I can't remember. Because the thing is, as a kid, she might have been told stories of, because they told her she's adopted from a young age. But they probably told her the whole like, oh yeah, your mom was really lovely. She used to care for you, as a nice story to tell her. And then because she was told as a kid, she's like, yeah, I remember that. So I can kind of play it off as that in my head. Yeah, like, it works.
It doesn't for me. I see what you're saying. You do have to retcon it to sort of keep it all in check, but it's always rubbed me up the wrong way. But the actual idea of her losing the will to live, and people say, yeah. So you, like a lot of people, right? Like, she dies of sadness. I don't have a problem with that. Right, okay. It is in fantasy.
Yeah, I know,
okay?
but you say this, but this is the thing, and I think this all the time. It's like there's got to be a certain sense of believableness.
You would hate Tolkien. I can think of at least 3 characters that die of sadness.
But this is the thing. But then again, it really does depend. I hate it. It's a bit of a strong word, but I've not liked it since I first saw it. I guess as I get older, the more I can just kind of go with it. But it's one of those things of, like I say, you've got to have a certain amount of belief. You know, it's kind of like the whole, like, I don't know. You might watch Superman and Lois Lane, right? She gets pulled out of water and her hair and makeup look perfect. And you're just like, what the fuck's going on? But at the same time, you're like, look, it's a flying man. Like, come on. Like, do you know what I mean? But then at the same time, there's got to be a certain amount of belief, hasn't there? So it depends where you see it, really, doesn't it?
What do you think to the idea then that when Vader chokes her on Mustafar, if he had actually have killed her at that point, and he actually was responsible for her dying,
Yeah, but then
they perform a
thingy.
C-section to save the babies.
Yeah.
So she doesn't die of sadness. He is actually.
I would have liked that, and C-3PO should have been the one to actually perform it because they couldn't leave her on. So they had to and suddenly he has his arms turned out to knives, and that would have been the best way to do that. And then they would have been born on Mustafar as well. It would have been great. No, that's what they should have done. She should have had triplets instead, right? This is the thing. And then one accidentally gets left behind. They go, fuck, we forgot one. And they go, that's fine, forget about it. And it dies on Mustafar. And it's the Skywalker that no one knew happened.
The continuity breaking aside, I don't have a problem with characters dying of sadness in a fantasy thing. In the Silmarillion, I'm not going to go down a lore rabbit hole, don't worry, but there's a character called Feanor, and his mom, when she gives birth to Feanor, she spends like all of her energy because Feanor's like this super light prolific character.
It has been a thing though. You can technically die of sadness.
It's
a thing. But
you see it in like old couples, right, where one will die and then not long after.
That's what I mean. The reason I think I don't love it as much is because it feels like it just came out of the blue. It felt like it was just, well, she needs to die, so she died of sadness. Yeah, that's why I don't love it as much. Like I said, there's got to be a certain sense of belief. But I'm also a firm believer that any idea can be a good idea. Any idea, no matter what it is, has the potential to be a good idea. No matter what it is. So it's the same with every idea has the potential to be a bad idea. You know, every song that is written, no matter who writes it, has that potential to be a good song. You know, so those kind of things, can work. It felt very like, well, we need to kill her off, so she'll die of sadness. It felt a bit cop-out-ish. Yeah. A little bit.
No, I can see that.
What was wrong with just she died in childbirth?
Does that feel weird in a world that's like super technologically advanced? It feels very sort of medieval, doesn't it? Like I know it happens, but for this kind of world, do you think it's?
Well, I mean, Anakin was born of the Force,
yes,
right? And why can't they manipulate her to bring her back? I don't know. It's just one of those things. If you've got to question that, you got. I don't know. To me, it just felt like a little bit like it was a cop out the way it was done.
JX says there's exactly one lightsaber fight with Palpatine that actually looks good. Unfortunately, it's in the Clone Wars. The animated series.
I've still not watched them.
I'm not too keen personally, but JX says, should we keep Yoda using his saber on the clones? Oh yeah. So you mentioned about the lightsaber fight there. What about when Order 66 is happening and Yoda's on?
I did like that. This is the thing. So that was subtle in the sense we use it once, which again kind of shows he doesn't need to do it often, but that was just jumping out of the blue. So it works perfectly. But what you would do by doing that is it's not a surprise that he has a lightsaber at the end. I mean, it was never going to be a full surprise, but it's not a big reveal do you get what I mean? So,
and what about the bit where they go to him and Obi-Wan go back to the Jedi Temple? Also, there's like 20 guards there. What if there was like a whole battalion of clones still at the Jedi Temple and they went back to deactivate the message because it was luring Jedi in, wasn't it? What if they went there and the whole Jedi Temple was full of clones and they just walk straight into it and just get like jackhammered with machine gun fire?
They could have done, couldn't they? But they didn't.
I was thinking this actually. So the whole political situation that Palpatine creates in this, what if Yoda was successful in killing the Emperor in that moment in the Senate? What would happen after that politically? Because the Jedi are still lambasted as leading a rebellion.
Oh no, he would have been.
They've just killed the Emperor.
Yoda would have been treated like Guy Fawkes. They would have pulled his insides out
Yeah.
and ran it around the fucking. That is, to be fair, that is a good point.
I was just thinking, like, how would the story change? I guess they still would have to go into hiding.
They probably would, yeah.
And buy their time a little bit. Yeah, I don't know. JX says, a buddy of mine uses the damaged audio from Soul Calibur 4 to turn Vader's no into a guttural scream. It's pretty cool. Yeah, I think I've seen a version similar to that. I'm fine with both. I'm fine with him yelling no, and I'm fine with him just screaming in anguish to the sky. Like, I'm fine with both, to be honest.
It does sound very similar to a Wookiee going. It's very similar, isn't it? No.
You know how there's like loads of dubs of Star Wars? There's like a Japanese dub and whatever, like and all different language options. I wish there was one in Australian and he just goes, no. You know how they have that weird way of saying
I did
no?
that with
no.
The college thing I did. Well, obviously we had to do sound effects stuff. And when it came to like if there was ever any, obviously there's not a lot of voice now, it was a lot of action, but if it ever came to voices, they would, one of the things they said was just like, don't worry about when it comes to voice. We don't dub over, you don't have to dub over anything. We're just on about blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
But what I did, anytime they were supposed to speak, so I would have random animal noises. So you'd see that and I'd have all the noises and then like Yoda would go to speak and just go, like it was, I would just use random like animal noises. And I was...
Jesus. Carl says, this definitely has the best soundtrack from all the Star Wars movies. That I will agree with. 100%. Yeah. Now I'm like, my God, I've listened to this soundtrack. I've rinsed this soundtrack since the day this movie came out.
Fate, so does it?
It does have Jewel of the Fates.
Yeah, but not like episode 1 and 2 have it, because episode 1 obviously, but episode 2 still has it a lot more.
I think Jewel of the Fates is the first piece of film music I can remember where I was like, well, I'm going to listen to this on repeat. And I had it on cassette tape and I would play Jewel of the Fates again and again and again at the age of 6. I was fascinated by that song. Loved it. And I still do to this day. I still play it and get it's the same level of epicness I get from it. But yeah, looking at all the soundtracks, I know a lot of the themes in this originated from A New Hope and the originals, but just looking at the quality of the soundtrack, the writing, and just how epic and how biblical it gets and how tragic the soundtrack is, I would go so far as to say this is John Williams' best soundtrack, which is very, very tricky to say because the dude scored all the Star Wars films, Indiana Jones, E.T., the Harry Potter films, and so many other films on top of that. The guy's a genius, but if I was going to pick one John Williams soundtrack to last me for eternity, which one I'd say is his magnum opus, it's probably Revenge of the Sith. And there's even some moments where the music's just so epic. It's almost too epic for the actual imagery that's on screen. One of them for me is where General Grievous enters the shot. He flies to Utapau and he lands, and it's just General Grievous exiting the ship. We've already seen the character. It's not like this is an introduction to the character. And he just walks down the gangplank and the choir's just going 10 to the dozen. It's a great song. A scene that I think is really funny when you watch it, just in terms of its direction, is where Mace Windu's about to kill or arrest Palpatine after he's beaten him in the fight, and Anakin's like rushing to get to Palpatine real quick. And it's this really flat shot in the corridor of Anakin just walking past, but the soundtrack's going fucking insane. Like, it's the most epic thing ever is happening. It's not even like Anakin's like running to get to Palpatine. He's just casually strolling across the frame. That always makes me laugh. But yeah, the music's just... Oh, do you have a favorite piece of music from this film? Like you did make a comment about the music when we were watching this, and it was the Padme rumination scene. It's where Anakin's sat in the Jedi chambers, and it all gets very eerie and very haunting, and you get this kind of Middle Eastern, Egyptian sounding choral music.
I thought it just seemed a little bit out of place. I didn't dislike it. It just seemed a little bit like, I don't know what it was. It
very different.
Yeah,
it's very unique.
Different. One of the things I like, I can't remember what it was called. Is it called? It's not called like the Theme of Love or something, is it?
Across the Stars from Attack of the Clones.
Yeah, I think that, because that's played in it, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite pieces. But I don't know. I wouldn't say 3 is the best for the soundtracks, to be fair. It's a good thing. Like, a good question. Which one is the best? But I wouldn't say it's 3.
Empire Strikes Back's fantastic.
I don't think there's a piece from 3 that's this is the thing. I don't know it's bad at all, but I don't think there's a piece from 3 that I go, yeah, that is amazing. And like, do you know what I mean? It originated from 3 or anything.
What about the fight with Anakin and Obi-Wan on Mustafar?
No, I do, but I like that, but yeah, it doesn't stand out as the best for me.
Okay.
I don't know which one I would choose as the best. Like, that's a good question. I don't know. That is, yeah.
I'd go with this one. I think a close
I
runner-up
might
is
go with
probably
one.
Empire.
I might go with 1. Really like that.
Something
to think about.
HLB says, "What is that hair?" Well, HLB clearly isn't talking about me because. So
I can't see. I can't. Like, honestly, I have to squint my eyes.
What is that hair?
Well, I don't know. I was born with it. It came into my life about 30 years ago.
I am envious of how quickly you can grow that hair.
I was going to shave it off.
No, you've got Ozzy to see. You're growing out your hair. JX says it would take a lot of clones to fill the Jedi Temple. Mass Amida would be made Emperor.
Do you know this thing, right? So Obi-Wan talks about he changed the message to the other Jedi to not come back, blah, 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 blah. That implies that there's loads more Jedi out there just don't die. That implies there's a lot, which I know we get from games and stuff. It depends which one you see as actual canon and blah, 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 blah. But we get that from some games and all that there's more out there. But because he talks about like getting them not to come back, so there must be a lot that just went, all right, we're not going back there then. But there's loads more Jedi in the galaxy.
Well, in A New Hope, Obi-Wan Kenobi does say that Darth Vader helped hunt down and destroy the Jedi Knights. So there would have to be more out there that he hunts down personally to kill. Yeah. I don't think all of that is concentrated just to the Jedi Temple stuff from Episode 3.
That's what I mean, but he would have to have gone out there and got rid of a lot more over the next few years.
But then when we get to Return of the Jedi, Yoda does say, "When gone am I, the last of the Jedi will you be?" And I take that as fact. So I know me and JX have argued on that. I take that as fact.
One of my favourite Jedi, though, is, I can't remember his name from Force Unleashed, the one that goes blind.
Oh.
The Japanese samurai one.
What's his name? Fuck. JX, help us out. What's the blind Jedi called?
I can see him, but remember Sarah?
Sarah,
someone. I feel like her name's Sarah. She was in Episode 3 in the game. She has like 2 lightsabers, 2 yellow ones, I think.
Oh, yeah. That's with. I'm just blanking on people's names.
Yeah, but...
he's like the instructor, the lightsaber instructor. He's based on the choreographer, isn't he? The lightsaber coordinator.
Yeah, I think you're getting 2 mixed up. Because I think there's an old dude in the Avengers game, and then
Ram Kota.
There you go. I thought in my head it was Ram Kota, but Ram. Do you remember that story, Ram and Sita? Do you not remember that story?
No.
But it's like it's like Indian. I don't know, but I remember that I was told it, at school, and I just said it in my head. I went, "Nah, I feel like he's from that." So no, but yeah, Ram Kota. There you go.
Carl says, "I always took that scene that Padme had the Force in her from being pregnant, sensing Anakin's struggle." I was sort of picking up on that. It gives you vibes of, at the end of Empire Strikes Back where Luke's...
Of course she has the Force in her. He came in her and his camera's got the Force. Of course she's got the Force in her. Like...
He is the chosen one. Yeah, it reminds me of Empire Strikes Back where Luke's hanging on the antenna and he calls out to Leia. And you have that sort of crossfade in the edit where she hears him. And yeah, there is that. I think it could
Leia
be shared connection.
Is still weird, though.
Yes.
It's still
that was never the original
intention.
Need to
happen, did it?
The reason that George Lucas apparently put that in there
because he went heard everybody.
No, so he wanted to give him the option of having a sister and there is another, because he wanted you to think that, well, Luke's not completely important then. Like, Luke could die when he fights Vader in Empire Strikes Back, but it's fine because there's someone else. So it added tension to that fight. You didn't expect that Luke would survive because there is another. And the third movie, Return of the Jedi, was going to be he finds his sister, but then he just went, oh, Leia's his sister. The one female character in that trilogy is his sister. Well, I guess it could be Mon Mothma, but find that very unlikely. So let's round off then, because we said we weren't going to talk about the film all that much, but I guess we did, which is fine because 20 years on. Sort of overall on the 4DX experience, any particular favorite scene with 4DX and thoughts 20 years on?
I'm trying to think of favorite scene with the. I don't know. I did like the beginning. The beginning, I think, went all out the most. But that was the bit where it could go out all the most, really. 20 years on, it holds up exactly the same. Like, I don't feel any worse about it, but I don't feel any better about it. Like, do you know what I mean? I'm not. It doesn't like. Oh, it stands out more. I appreciate it more or anything. It's the same. One thing I will always say about this movie is the pacing. I think is great. I do have times where, well, not now, but when I was younger, that I thought, did this skip a bit because it was quite fast? But I do think the pacing is good in the sense of you're not. I've never ever sat through Revenge of the Sith and thought, oh, yeah, half an hour left. I've never ever done that through this movie, and I feel like every movie. I mean, I've not ever seen every movie like 4 or 5 times, but I feel like every movie, if you get to like the 4th or 5th watching, even if it is for literally a minute, going, okay, I've got 10 minutes left right at the end, or like, but I've never felt that with Revenge of the Sith. Never. I do think the pacing's done really, really well.
Yeah, the 4DX experience. I'm glad we did it, and I'm glad my first 4DX experience was Star Wars: Revenge of the Sith. I think it was a pretty cool one to do it for. It is very gimmicky. I don't know if I'd recommend it. If you've never done it before and you see a film that you think's mildly intriguing, I think it's got to be an action film though, and maybe they are the only films that get ported to 4DX anyway. But I would recommend go to see an action film with this if you just want to give it a try.
I think they should do it with Texas Chainsaw Massacre. As soon as they go into the house, it just stinks the whole time.
Oh god, yeah.
It just smells of rotten human flesh the whole time.
Yeah, favorite scene for me in 4DX was undoubtedly the beginning. That was the one that I was hyped for, and it delivered. It really did. It has the added benefit that it is a very, very elongated action scene, right from the beginning all the way to the bit where they crash land on Coruscant. So that was all good stuff. Really enjoyed that. Thoughts on the movie 20 years on? I mean, we went to see it last year, so my thoughts haven't changed all that much. All of the problems that I have with the movie, I still have. I think it's still very rushed. Anakin's turn to the dark side is way too quick. This should have been paced out over a trilogy. And it feels like all the meat of the story, the interesting stuff, just happens and is rushed in the last 40 minutes of the movie. And that's probably my biggest problem with this film. That being said, just watching it again, I just have so much more. Now that I've watched the videos and documentaries on it, the films that George Lucas was inspired by to make the prequels and certain shot choices and certain decisions, I do have more of an appreciation for the actual filmmaking behind it, which I know a lot of people when this film came out really didn't have. And I feel that's something that people are coming around to more. The soundtrack's still incredible. And yeah, I just appreciate the storytelling behind it, even though it does have its shortcomings. And it still does. But some of the visual effects as well, like everything on Mustafar looks outstanding. And I know I said this last year, but watching it on the big screen, the fact that the effects companies like ILM pulled that off 20 years ago looks incredible. Looks better than half the stuff that comes out now in many ways. So yeah, I still love this film. It's probably my favorite one of the prequels. I think it's fair to say. Always got a soft spot in my heart for Phantom Menace because it's the one that got me into it. But it's probably this one, isn't it? I think it's definitely the most rewatchable
probably
one
better
out of
than
all of them.
Return of the Jedi a little bit, isn't it?
Oh, I wouldn't go that far. Some people would. Some people would agree. A lot of people would agree with you there.
It is on par with Return of the Jedi because neither is a bad movie at all. Both are good movies. I do like both of them. But I don't. Neither of them stand out in my head. Like out of all the Star Wars, obviously 4 and 5 stand out massively, and 2 stands out for being shit. But these movies are just—they're very they're just there. Like, you know what I mean? And 1 isn't as good as the 2, but not in the sense of like it's not good. It's just I feel like these 2 are I do feel these are very good movies. Like 3 is probably the best of the prequels. And I do think it goes up to the level of probably being on par with 6 in my mind.
It's fair enough. I'm trying to think probably the next film that we're going to be seeing at the cinema together is going to be Superman in July. I think that comes out. Is it June or July?
Superman.
Anyway, June or July, we'll probably be seeing Superman. I think we should give Star Wars a bit of a break in terms of seeing it at the cinema.
Oh, until they do episode 10.
Yeah.
No, I would just refuse of that. I'm not going to see episode 10. I can't be asked.
Bath Time says he's got to go. Yeah, no, thanks for tuning in, man. Appreciate you. I will get back to your email, by the way. I haven't forgotten. I've had a lot of stuff on the last couple of days, and we'll sort a video together, mate. JX says the best of the prequel trilogy is on par with the worst of the OT and the most mid of the sequel trilogy. You're talking to two guys that absolutely detest the sequel trilogy.
Yeah.
So.
To me, I agree that the best of the prequel trilogy is on par with the worst of the original trilogy.
Yeah, you.
Because it's the thing. I think Return of the Jedi is the worst of the original, but not in the sense of it's a bad movie. It's just it's my least favorite of them, and I think Revenge of the Sith, as I say, it's my favorite. It's on par. So yeah, it's I mean, we've said all this before, haven't we? But like, for instance, 4 is just my favorite, and I think 5 is the better movie out of a lot of stuff. But 4 is 4's my favorite.
You like 4 because it's that self-contained quality. Like they could have just stopped it.
Yeah,
there, right.
Yeah, well, the thing is, you say that they could have stopped it. I know the idea was it could be one thing, but there were so many questions that were just like, well, what's this then? What's this? Why is this? I don't know, but I did. 4 just has a nice charm, I think, to it. It has just a lot of just the cool, save the princess from the castle. Like it's that kind. And it's just, I think 4 is just amazing, and also that shot, and everyone will say it with Luke and the 2 sons, and that's just great.
I remember the ending shot of this film when I saw it when I was 13. I just remember being in tears at the end because I thought this was going to be the last Star Wars movie. In many ways, it is for me.
And there's no Jawas in this, so.
Yeah,
I prefer the Jawas.
But I thought it was a beautiful, perfect ending for it because George Lucas's swan song. Maybe he at the time, I think he even said in an interview, there is no 7, 8, and 9. Like I'm done.
What is this? Is that a sandworm? Is that a thing? Sandworm.
That's in Dune. No. And Beetlejuice.
Yeah, I know, but this is the thing. So, what in the original trilogy is a big sandworm monster in the sand?
Which bit?
I don't know. This is the thing, right? So I played Star.
There's a crate dragon. It's probably a crate dragon.
I don't know, but I played this thing. I played I played Outlaws, right? And on Tatooine, I was just on a bike, just through Tatooine on the map, and then suddenly this thing just appeared and was chasing me through the sand.
Probably a crate dragon.
But this is the thing, and I was so I was going, and I was so in the zone of like, don't look back. If you look back, you'll slow down. The thing will eat you. I don't know what it is, and I just kept going and going and going. And then eventually, I heard it disappear, and I was like, I have no idea what that was. I was like, I'm so confused, and that was really creepy because I don't know what it is. And it was there's a certain part of land that you go on the outskirts, and if you go on that, it would appear every now and then. And every time I was on there, I was kind of shooting my luck and said, how can I do it before it appears? And it just kept chasing me. But I never looked back because I was always like, if you do, you'll get eaten. So I still don't know what the fucking thing is. But
I'm pretty sure it's crate dragon. Yeah, they like to bury. They like to burrow under the ground.
I don't know. At first, I was just like, the first thing that came into my mind was it could I was like, oh, the Sarlacc. I was like, hang on, the Sarlacc doesn't move. Like, do you know what I mean? And then I was like, it's a thing. And I was like, a sandworm. And I was like, that's not a thing though, is it? And then I thought of the thing in the asteroid, and I was like, but that's on the asteroid.
No, I think you're right. So I just fond memories of watching this 20 years ago, thinking it was the last Star Wars movie. It was that one missing, having all the videos, you had 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, and you were waiting for that missing chapter, that one last one. And
can you still get the video?
It costs a lot of fucking money. So I never had it on video because I always thought it just came out on DVD, but apparently they did make because it was right in that moment where it was moving to DVD. And it goes for a good few hundred now for Revenge of the Sith on video. So I might pull the trigger one day, but I've got it on DVD. You can get it on Blu-ray. You can watch it for free, you know what I mean? So justify it. Brinsley, right at the very end, says, what's going on, lads? What's going on? How was the 4DX? Well, you could go back and watch our previous stream. Overall, I'm glad we went to 4DX. There's some fun sequences in there, definitely. The action scenes were all really good. I don't know if I'd go again to it. It felt very gimmicky, but that's kind of what I expected from it. But it was a brand new viewing experience for a film that isn't brand new to me at all, and I've seen hundreds and hundreds of times. But it was good. It was fun. It was a fun way to spend a Saturday evening, especially after work. So all good. In the meantime, if you are watching this video after the fact, please do let us know your thoughts on Revenge of the Sith. Are you planning on catching it this week? And watching it for the 20th anniversary. Some of your favorite scenes, least favorite scenes, anything Star Wars related, that would be great. Love to see you guys' comments on that. And do consider subscribing to the channel for more movie reviews, discussions, and live streams. We will be back on Monday, continuing our Don Bluth retrospective with a troll in Central Park. But actually, in the comments right now, JX, me and JX are going to be doing another Revenge of the Sith video for the actual 20th anniversary, like the second week of May, where we're going to be comparing and contrasting the novelization version of Revenge of the Sith with the actual movie. The novelization is based on George Lucas's earlier script, where it was going to be where it's based on like the 4-hour version of the film before he had to cut it down. So there's lots of extended scenes in there, sort of different context on certain scenes and whatnot. And yeah, it'll be a fun comparison video. That will do it for us. We're both very tired. So we'll catch you guys on the next video. Thank you to everyone that tuned in tonight and commented. We appreciate you guys. See ya.